You know that feeling? That moment of panic right before you have to speak English? The words are right there on the tip of your tongue, but they won't come out. Well, this whole explainer is about flipping that script, turning that fear into real confidence. We're going to break down exactly how to get a captivating start in any conversation. So, let's just dive right in.
I mean, for me, and I bet for a lot of you, it's always that first sentence, isn't it? Just the hello, the introduction. It feels like this giant hurdle you have to jump over just to get started. If that sounds familiar at all, then you are in exactly the right place. We're going to tackle that feeling head on.
And this quote from Sasanka de Silva really just hits the nail on the head. It's not about knowing every single word in the dictionary, right? It's about having the right words ready to go when you need them. That is the bedrock of confidence. It's about building that core vocabulary so you feel like you're on solid ground. So, where do we even begin?
Well, we start at the beginning, of course. We're talking about mastering the simple but absolutely crucial art of introducing yourself. Seriously, these are the fundamental building blocks for every single conversation you're ever going to have. No pressure, right?
Okay, this question. You're going to hear this one all the time. It's pretty much the universal icebreaker. And just having a simple, clear answer ready to go, man, that is your first key to unlocking pretty much any conversation.
And here is just a brilliant example. It's so direct, it's informative, and it's super easy for you to adapt. What I love about this is that it's not just the city, Kandy, but it adds the region, the central province. See that? That little extra bit of detail gives more context. You can just swap in your own city and region. So simple, but so effective.
Okay, so what usually comes next? After you say where you're from, the conversation naturally drifts toward what you do, right? So what's great here is you have these two common follow-ups. What do you do and what are you studying? Having an answer for these ready in your back pocket, it just keeps the momentum going. No awkward pauses.
All right, so we've got the basic building blocks down. Now for the fun part. Let's see how they all fit together in a real flowing conversation. This is where the magic really happens. Okay, look at this opener from Arvenda. It's perfect. He says hello, introduces himself, it's polite, it's direct, and then boom, he immediately passes the conversational ball by asking that key question we just talked about. Where are you from? Just a flawless start.
And Milani's response? It's fantastic. She answers the question directly, but then, and this part is so important, she adds a little extra piece of information. I just moved to Colombo for my studies. That one little sentence is gold. It gives Aravinda something totally new to ask about. It keeps the whole thing alive. Okay, let's jump ahead a little in their chat. Look at what Aravinda does here. This is a total pro move. He shares something about himself, his hobby, and then immediately asks, how about you? That little question is crucial. It shows you're actually interested in them, and it makes sure the conversation isn't just a one-way street.
In this response from Milani, it's a perfect example of how using specific, personal details makes a conversation so much better. See, she doesn't just say, I like to travel. That's kind of boring. Instead, she names a specific famous landmark, Sigiriya. That kind of detail paints a picture in your mind. It brings the conversation to life and makes it way more memorable.
Okay, so social chats are one thing. That's great. But what about those times when you just need to get things done? Let's switch gears a bit and focus on those practical, sometimes more formal conversations you have to have in everyday life.
Yeah, think about it. At a bank or a post office, you're not trying to make a new best friend. You just need clarity. And notice how these phrases are formal, direct, and super efficient. Just getting a few of these down can make these kinds of official interactions totally stress-free.
Now for a scenario that, well, it can feel a lot more high stakes, right? Talking to a doctor. This is a situation where clear communication isn't just helpful, it's absolutely essential. But the good news is, having a structured approach can give you a ton of confidence even when you're not feeling your best. So what's the key? You just break it down into simple steps. Just follow these three right here. First, describe your symptoms. Second, ask about the medication. And third, clarify any instructions about diet or follow-ups. See? This simple roadmap makes the whole thing feel so much more manageable. And this question right here, this is so important. It's a perfect example of asking for clarification, which is absolutely critical for your health. Seriously, never ever be afraid to ask for more details about your treatment. It's your health, after all.
And there's the doctor's answer. See how vital it was to ask that question? This is just a perfect example of how clear, simple communication can have a real, direct impact on your well-being. And that's exactly why practicing these kinds of scenarios is so incredibly valuable.
All right, let's move on from the necessary stuff to the really exciting stuff. This is my favorite part. This is the whole reason we learn a language, right? To use it, to explore, to connect, and to really experience the world around us. I mean, asking for directions is just a fundamental skill for anyone who wants to explore. And the best part is, you don't need to use these long, complex sentences. Just look how simple and effective these questions are. Honestly, with these two basic patterns, you can get pretty much anywhere you need to go. So, once you've actually found the place, how do you talk about it? This is where it gets really interesting. We're shifting gears now from asking practical questions to actually sharing an experience. So how do you capture the feeling of a place with your words? Well, this slide shows us exactly how to do it. The trick is to use sensory words. Don't just say the market was nice. That doesn't tell us anything. Say it was lively and noisy. Talk about the sounds you hear, like the rhythmic banging of coconuts. Talk about the colors you see, like the bright yellow turmeric and deep red chili powder. When you use details like these, you bring the market to life for the listener. Your English doesn't just communicate, it sings. Wow. Okay, we've covered a lot of ground today, haven't we? From that very first hello all the way to describing a bustling market. So now, let's bring it all home and really focus on the single most important takeaway from all of this.
And this is really it. The fundamental truth is, you do not need to be fluent to start a conversation. You just need to be prepared. Mastering just a handful of these key phrases is like having a key that can open any door. And remember this, confidence comes from preparation, not from perfection.
So I'm going to leave you with this final thought. All of this, it's just knowledge, it's just potential until you actually go out and use it. The goal here isn't just to learn English, it's to speak English. So think about it. What's one small, simple conversation you can start today? Go on. What conversation will you start?
Welcome back to the Deep Dive. This is where we take a monumental stack of sources, all the guides, the research, the notes, and we try to carve a perfect, high-utility shortcut straight to functional expertise.
Exactly.
And our mission today is really laser-focused. We're not just analyzing a textbook. We're here to optimize your path toward, confident, articulate, and powerful communication in a very specific, very vibrant, real-world setting.
Right. And the source we've been given is this comprehensive language guide. But I mean, this isn't your generic vocabulary training.
No, not at all.
It is custom tailored for everyday use within the Sri Lankan context. And the core premise, which I think we need to internalize right away, is that vocabulary. It isn't a bonus. It's the essential, unbreakable foundation.
The foundation.
Without that precise, robust vocabulary, the right words for the right moment, speaking confidently is just, well, it's impossible. It turns your attempts into these hesitant, stressed stumbles.
Okay, so let's unpack that. Let's get you past that hesitant stage. This is why this source material is, frankly, so brilliant. It's infused with this unique cultural richness of places like Colombo, Kandy, Matara, and even Arugam Bay. We're going to show how this material actually structures knowledge. It acts as a kind of progression, starting with simple personal exchanges, moving through these high-pressure zones of complex formal transactions.
And then finishing with the really vivid stuff.
Exactly. The descriptive language you need for true cultural immersion.
And that structural journey is really the key. It's the key to knowledge retention and, more importantly, practical application. We're guiding you through these high-stakes scenarios. I mean, from articulating why your attention to detail is vital in the gemstone trade, to successfully opening a bank account, to describing, unknown local produce like kohila and thambili.
Right.
This deep dive, it ensures maximum knowledge retention because we're connecting the language directly to your immediate practical life.
Let's start where every relationship, every interaction begins, establishing identity. Section 1.1, this is pages 5 and 6 of our source. It lays out the components for a successful self-introduction. Personal background, education, career, interests.
Mm-hmm.
What immediately struck me, and this is a sign of really high-quality instruction, was the absolute commitment to specific local examples.
And what's so fascinating here is how the guide just immediately roots the language in a local geographical reality. The minute you're asked, where are you from? The answers provided, they're not just vaguely Sri Lanka.
Yeah.
They're specifically naming Kandy or Gali or Jaffna, and they're placing it within the relevant province. That immediately puts you on the social and geographical map, which is just crucial for building rapport.
Yes, and it moves beyond just the abstract names of big cities into the practicalities of urban life. They use this hyper-specific location for identity.
Mm-hmm.
I live near the Nugagoda market.
Right.
And then they follow it up with a simple but incredibly high-utility phrase to provide some texture. It's a very busy town, but it's convenient.
Yeah.
That simple juxtaposition, busy but convenient, it shows you can handle nuance in English.
And it shows you understand the trade-offs of city life.
Exactly.
That texture, it continues so powerfully into the educational examples. They avoid the generic, I went to a school nearby.
Mhm.
Instead, they name specific, established institutions that carry immediate social weight. Ananda College, Davi Balika Vidyalaya. For higher ed, they cite the University of Colombo. When you name a specific recognized institution like that, you eliminate questions and instantly communicate your educational background.
It's a linguistic shortcut, really.
It is. It signals a shared cultural context.
So if we look at the career section, the examples are just so deeply rooted in the engine of the national economy. We're introduced to the scenario of being an executive at a tea export company in Colombo. I mean, a huge, globally recognized industry.
Right.
Or they discuss the necessary quality control language for high-value gemstones. And they mention this essential need for attention to detail. These aren't just generic jobs. They're very high-stakes, specific roles.
And this choice of language shows that the guide is preparing learners for professional conversations. It's not just teaching basic job titles, it's teaching what the job requires in English.
Okay, that's a great point.
So if you're dealing with tea exports, you need language for logistics and quality. If you're in gemstones, you need precision and the language of appraisal. The language really reflects the economic function of the role.
And the aspirational language is just as grounded. The ambition listed isn't some vague, I want to be successful. It's precise.
What is it?
I want to become a marketing manager and help promote Sri Lankan products globally. That connection to the global promotion of local products, tea, gems, spices, it shows an understanding of the national economic mission. It frames the learner's English mastery as a vehicle for that mission.
This is a perfect segue to what you called the aha moment, where the source material truly excels in application-based learning. This is the complete opposite of academic language. So what is the biggest personal goal that's listed in the source material?
It is spectacularly specific and practical. It's, I want to learn to drive a three-wheeler, a tuk-tuk, and visit Arugam Bay for the surfing season.
That is gold. I mean, just think about why that example is so brilliant. Learning to drive a tuk-tuk requires transactional English. You have to negotiate lessons, understand traffic laws, talk with mechanics.
Great.
And visiting Arugam Bay for surfing, that requires directional English, accommodation negotiation, descriptive language for the coast. It immediately forces the learner to acquire functional transactional English, not just formal grammar.
It's totally utility-driven.
It is. That level of utility is brilliant because it makes the English goal entirely about access to local life.
That's the key takeaway from this first part, then. The source material understands that fluency isn't measured by grammar tests. It's measured by how quickly you can stop being a generalized outsider and start functioning as a culturally aware participant.
So moving on to section 1.2, we get into the cultural details in hobbies and food. The goal here is to acquire the language that signals an immediate, authentic connection. So what are the local interests they list?
Again, it's super specific. It's not just sports.
Right.
It's playing cricket with friends at the local grounds on weekends. It ties the hobby to a specific social and physical setting. It's localized leisure.
And the food preferences. That's where you signal true cultural fluency. Loving spicy food is generic, but listing specific dishes like pol sambal and patu and, confirming you eat rice and curry almost every day, these are daily life staples.
When you mention pol sambal, you're not talking about tourist food.
No, you're signaling an appreciation for the common, necessary elements of the cuisine, not just the dishes you'd find in a high-end restaurant.
For favorite landmarks, the source uses Sigiriya and the Cultural Triangle. It acknowledges an aesthetic appreciation for history and architecture. And even the practical application of English is realistic, watching English movies to practice listening. It shows how language learning can fit into leisure and self-improvement without requiring, intense academic study time.
Which brings us directly to the methodological core, the key training tip. The guide strongly advises the learner to replace the bolded words in the sample answers with genuine personal information about their own life.
Okay, this is where I want to push back a little. If the goal is speed, why not just memorize the perfect sample answer they give you in the book? Why go through the effort of personalizing it?
That's a really critical question, and it gets into the psychology of memory retrieval. Memorizing a generic answer like, I am an executive at a tea company, that's stored in your short-term academic memory.
And it's easily forgotten under pressure.
Exactly. But when you use your own specific college, your own goal, like getting to Argam Bay, or your own father's retired profession, that answer gets stored with emotional and personal context.
So authenticity equals memory retention, and it reduces anxiety.
Precisely. Personalization creates these cognitive hooks. When you're nervous in a real conversation, you won't struggle to remember a fact about some fictional Aravinda. You'll automatically recall your own life story. This bridges the gap between practice and real life, which is the entire purpose of functional English.
Let's see that mastery in action then. In 1.3, the practice dialogue, is between Aravinda, the executive, and Milani, the accountancy student. We're looking for those functional phrases that keep the momentum going.
Well, the dialogue is a concise lesson in the conversational arc. It starts politely enough. Hello, Milani, nice to meet you. But the follow-up technique is where the real utility is.
What do you mean?
When Milani mentions moving to Colombo for her studies, Aravinda doesn't just nod. He actively listens and he continues the thread. Oh, I see. So what are you currently studying? This shows engaged interest, not just taking turns to speak.
Right. And the move to personal background is handled so skillfully. Milani shifts the topic smoothly by asking, that sounds interesting. Can you describe your family? This is an essential phase for new acquaintances, that polite inquiry into social standing and family context.
And the answer then uses those shared cultural context notes we were just talking about. Aravinda uses that common Sri Lankan background detail. My father is a retired government officer.
Why is that phrase so powerful for fluency?
Because the term government officer immediately carries social weight. It implies a stable, respected background, and it eliminates the need for a lot of further explanation. It's a shared reference point that saves conversational time.
The dialogue just flows naturally from there, from career and family to hobbies, cricket, travel, Sigiriya, before it concludes politely. And the conclusion is often the hardest part for learners, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely.
Well, it was nice talking to you, Milani. Good luck with your studies. The structure teaches the full conversational etiquette, from opening the door to closing it gracefully.
So Section 1, in summary, is really about building a personal, culturally resonant identity profile. It ensures that when you speak English, you're not just reading from a script. You're speaking with personal conviction and using vocabulary that resonates authentically within that local environment.
All right, so we've established the comfort and familiarity of the personal stack. Now we move into, let's call it, level 2 of language mastery. The high-stakes, jargon-heavy environment of formal transactions in public offices.
Yeah, and this is where the rules really change. It's not about making a friend anymore.
No.
It's about absolute precision and successfully completing a task.
Precision is the only metric that matters here.
It is. You need the exact vocabulary to execute your objective, whether that's a financial transaction or a bureaucratic process. If you use the wrong term, you risk wasting half a day waiting in line only to be turned away because your paperwork or your language describing it was wrong.
And the first stop is the bank, which is covered in 2.1. The source material is fantastic here because it focuses so intensely on the high-utility vocabulary you'd need for a standard visit to, say, a commercial bank branch. What are the non-negotiable terms you have to know?
The absolute essentials. The first request, I need to open a new savings account, please. That sets the stage. Then the staff's immediate counter questions are procedural. They require mandatory document.
Right.
Do you have your national identity card NIC with you? Followed by the necessary secondary document, the billing proof, like a utility bill that proves where you live. These terms, NIC, billing proof, are the minimum entry requirements for any formal process.
And the functional vocabulary continues when you're describing what you need to do with your money, to deposit funds, withdraw funds, or apply for other services like a checkbook or the debit card.
Yes, but the material elevates the instruction by analyzing complexity, specifically in the types of transfers and deposits.
Right, this is where the deeper knowledge lies.
Yeah, they highlight the distinction between a local transfer, so sending funds to a branch in Candy, versus a foreign transaction. But crucially, they address this piece of global regulatory formality. We have to talk about the mandatory Know Your Customer form, the KYC form.
The concept of Know Your Customer, KYC, that's a piece of necessary financial jargon. Why is it so important for the learner to not only know the phrase, but to really understand its context?
It's all about global compliance. KYC is the regulatory mechanism banks use worldwide to verify your identity and assess your risk profile. If you walk into a Sri Lankan bank and you use the phrase KYC form correctly, you're demonstrating an understanding of banking protocol, not just translation.
It shows you're prepared.
Exactly. It shows you are prepared to participate in the formal financial system, which builds trust and just speeds up the whole transaction.
The document also gets into investment options, which requires a whole different subset of vocabulary. The distinction between a fixed deposit and a flexible deposit.
And that difference can be conceptually challenging for non-native speakers. A fixed deposit means locking away funds for a specified duration. In the guide's example, it's for a period of 1 year. This requires clear English to understand the commitment and, the penalty for early withdrawal.
And a flexible deposit is the opposite.
Right. It allows for easier access. The language here reflects functional financial literacy. You have to be able to ask, what is the interest rate on the 1-year fixed deposit, and what are the withdrawal penalties?
Okay, let's unpack the next essential public interaction in 2.2. The post office and the real complexity of government services. The language here shifts entirely to logistics and bureaucratic nomenclature.
Oh, for sure. For the post office, we need utility terms for handling mail. If you're sending important documents, you need to ask for the registered mail service. For security, for traceability.
And if you need speed.
You use speed post or express mail. And crucially, we have the necessary instruction for physical handling. If the contents are fragile, you have to clearly instruct the clerk to handle the box with care. And notice the hyperspecificity, a RS-50 stamp for a standard letter within Sri Lanka.
Then we hit the true bureaucracy stack, government authority terminology. We're dealing with institutions like the Divisional Secretariat or the RMV, the Registrar of Motor Vehicles. This is where English precision prevents administrative failure.
Totally. For example, needing a certified document like a birth certificate copy for a university application. The English word certified carries the weight of official validation.
Right.
Or navigating the correct counter for specific documents or motor vehicle transfers. If you don't use the precise term for the type of document you need, the clerk literally cannot help you.
And here's a golden nugget of local fluency. The source brings up this specific local term, kiath. The question posed in the source is, have you made a file, kiath, for this request?
That is invaluable. I mean, the source guide recognizes that in local administrative practices, certain non-English words are deeply embedded in the process. A kiath is essentially an internal processing file, like a dossier.
So knowing that term is key.
Knowing that the clerk will ask if you have prepared or been assigned a file for your request means you can correctly answer in English, even if the local term is used. It shows the guide anticipates the hybrid language environment of a government office.
It also requires understanding the granular detail of administrative divisions, like the importance of providing your Grama Niladari, or GN, a division number like 245B Pelawatt for official forms.
The GN division number is an administrative anchor. Failing to provide that is like submitting a crucial request without a street address or a zip code.
Yeah.
It just invalidates the entire transaction because it can't be filed correctly within the government hierarchy.
You have to be able to say it clearly and know why they're asking. So let's see how this confluence of procedure and vocabulary all comes together in the role-play analysis in 2.3. It's about opening a savings account between Tharushi, the customer, and Mr. Pereira, the bank officer. This dialogue maps out the entire progression.
And the structure is a lesson in transactional sequencing. It starts with the required polite opening. Good morning. How may I assist you today? Tharushi clearly states her purpose. This is immediately followed by Mr. Pereira requesting the mandatory ID, the NIC, and billing proof, confirming the customer has met that initial requirement.
Then comes the form instruction. Please fill out this Know Your Customer KYC form completely. And Tharushi then engages in service add-ons asking about the debit card, a necessary component of modern banking.
Right, and the transaction concludes with the practical steps. The initial activation deposit of 5,000 rupees, and Mr. Pereira giving the common instruction to take a token number. Your token number is 30. But the most critical piece of high utility language here is the Rushi's question.
The question that moves the customer from being a passive recipient to an active manager of their own time. What is the estimated waiting time right now?
That question is transformative. It acknowledges the reality of bureaucracy delays are expected, but it uses English to manage the inconvenience. Asking that question shows assertiveness and efficiency. Knowing the steps, the precise financial terms, the required documents, and these functional time-managing questions, it transforms you
From a hesitant petitioner.
into an articulate citizen navigating a formal process effectively. And that's the whole goal of Section 2.
Now we shift to arguably the highest stakes scenario in the entire source material, essential health communication. Section 3 is dedicated to the doctor's visit. This requires not just general fluency, but linguistic precision.
Yeah, because miscommunication here isn't measured in wasted time. It's measured in serious health consequences.
Precision is absolutely vital, especially when describing symptoms, which is the focus of 3.1. The source material forces the learner to differentiate the type of pain they're experiencing. It's not just, I have a headache.
No, the learner has to be able to distinguish between a dull pain and a throbbing pain.
Let's spend a moment on why that linguistic distinction matters so much medically. Why is throbbing so much more intense or different than dull?
Because the description dictates the likely physiological cause. A dull pain usually suggests tension, maybe muscle strain, or a mild inflammatory response. It's constant low level.
Right.
A throbbing pain, however, immediately suggests a vascular component, like a migraine or increased pressure. It often requires different treatment pathways or at least further investigation. Using the precise English word dramatically speeds up the differential diagnosis.
And when describing coughs, the detail has to extend to the phlegm. Is it there and what color is it? The source uses the specific example of yellowish phlegm in the mornings.
Right, and for a stomach upset, you have to differentiate between frequent diarrhea versus vomiting.
These aren't subtle differences at all.
No. Yellowish phlegm signals a bacterial infection. Differentiating between diarrhea and vomiting helps determine the likely source of the infection, lower GI tract versus upper GI tract. The doctor needs these specific observable details to guide their immediate assessment.
And to prescribe the right first line of treatment.
Exactly.
The guide also incorporates these critical safety questions right into the dialogue structure. For instance, asking the doctor, is this condition contagious?
Which is a high-utility public health question. The answer they provide gives clear, actionable advice. She should stay home for at least 2 days after the fever breaks to prevent spreading it. So it teaches the learner how to ask for and understand isolation protocols.
And the essential step of confirming allergies, a matter of patient safety. I'm allergic to penicillin. Is there a chance that this medication contains it?
And the doctor's assurance, no, this medicine is safe, it belongs to a different drug family, shows the learner the precise language needed to communicate and receive that life-saving clarity. This section is basically a crash course in medical literacy, framed by specific English terminology.
So that preparation is for the examination. Next, in 3.2, we hit the crucial discussion on medication and usage. This is all about dosage, clarity, and compliance, where ambiguity is just plain dangerous.
Absolutely. Take the typical phrase, take 3 times a day. The key clarification the source provides is profound in its practicality. This means roughly every 8 hours, not just morning, noon, and night. And the crucial timing, it's best taken after meals.
Why is that 8-hour clarification so important? I think a lot of people assume 3 times a day means breakfast, lunch, and dinner, which could space the dosage by only, 4 or 6 hours during the day and then leave a huge gap overnight.
Precisely. Medical efficacy relies on maintaining a certain blood concentration of the drug. If you compress 3 doses into 12 waking hours, the drug level peaks too high, potentially causing side effects, and then it dips way too low overnight, which allows the infection to rebound.
So understanding that language is about time management.
It is. Every 8 hours is essential for effective treatment.
But the most vital lesson in this section has to be about antibiotics and compliance. The patient asks the common but very dangerous question. This is a 5-day course. Is it okay to stop taking the tablets once my symptoms disappear?
And the guide provides the strict, scientifically necessary instruction. No, you must complete the full 5-day course. This is a major public health service taught through an English dialogue.
Really is.
Stopping early might make you feel better, but it leaves the strongest, most resistant bacteria alive. That allows the infection to come back stronger, or, even worse, contribute to global antibiotic resistance. The language here teaches responsible compliance.
The source also prepares the patient for managing common side effects and interactions. If a painkiller causes drowsiness or dizziness, the advice is clear and safety-focused. Wait 30 minutes before driving or ask someone else to drive.
Right. And confirming safety with existing medication is paramount. These new medicines are safe to take with your blood pressure medication. It's all about proactive patient communication.
Finally, we cover logistics in 3.3. Diet, lifestyle, and follow-up. The dietary advice is specific to recovery and local cuisine. Avoid very spicy, oily, and heavy foods. Stick to light, easily digestible meals. This uses English to translate general health advice into practical meal planning.
And there's specific advice tailored to common, culturally recognized ailments like coughs. The recommendation is to avoid cold drinks and use warm water and warm ginger tea to soothe the throat. This is a common, effective home remedy that's been formalized and expressed clearly in the English dialogue.
The need for medical leave and rest is formalized too. The recommendation is for at least 3 days of complete rest at home. This gives the learner the exact English they need to communicate with an employer or a school.
But most critically, the guide sets the follow-up criteria. You should return immediately if your fever is still high after 2 days or if the pain increases.
This establishes a clear action threshold for the listener. It moves the responsibility from the doctor to the patient based on measurable criteria. You're empowered to make a decision when the treatment isn't working as expected.
And finally, prevention advice, especially during the rainy season, frequent hand washing and avoiding crowded places. This section doesn't just teach survival English, it provides necessary proactive health literacy, all framed in professional, precise dialogue.
We've moved from personal identity to formal bureaucracy in these high-stakes health scenarios. Now we switch gears entirely and focus on the spatial language of navigation in a bustling urban environment. Section 4. Routes directions firmly in specific Sri Lankan destinations and essential modes of transport. This is the language of getting things done efficiently.
In 4.1, the landmarks they provide are instantly functional. We're not talking about abstract squares or avenues. We're talking about galley face green, where you go straight down this road and you'll see the ocean.
The ocean is a pretty unmistakable endpoint.
Exactly. Or finding a bus halt next to the ubiquitous, recognizable Keel's supermarket. These supermarkets are functional reference points that locals use every single day.
The material contrasts modes of transport perfectly based on distance, too. If you're going to the Temple of the Tooth in Kandy, you're told it's too far to walk, maybe 2-3 kilometers. The suggested alternative is a 3-wheeler or a taxi.
Right, and if you need the closest ATM, you look for the universal signifier inside the Commercial Bank branch.
The best parts for me are the local transport specifics in 4.2, where the guide signals advanced local knowledge, not just catch a bus, but specific high-frequency routes, bus route 176 or bus route 100 or 101 to Mount Lavinia Beach.
And why does knowing the number 176, for instance, signal fluency?
Well, because it's a shared cultural map, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's the difference between asking vaguely which bus goes towards the junction and asking with the precision of a local, where do I catch the 176?
That precision grants efficiency. It saves time, and it signals that you understand the infrastructure.
Now, the discussion of 3-wheelers, the tuk-tuks, it contains a crucial safety and transactional warning. Make sure you agree on the price beforehand. And the guide gives a specific, actionable price anchor. It shouldn't be more than 500 rupees to pet a market.
This is where I think we should apply a little dose of critical analysis, as we promised in the deep dive format. While providing a price anchor like 500 rupees is immensely helpful, prices shift constantly, due to traffic, rain, or just demand. Does the source offer advice on how to negotiate when that anchor point has clearly moved?
That's a great point. The source implies the language needed for negotiation, but we can probably extrapolate the necessary dialogue.
What would that sound like?
Well, if the driver asks for 800 rupees, the learner has to be able to say, in polite but firm English, something like, I was advised that the fare should not exceed 500 rupees. Can we meet halfway at 600, or should I look for a metered taxi?
Right. It teaches conversational compromise while still using the knowledge nugget provided by the guide.
It transforms the passive learner into an active negotiator. The source also keeps up with modern transport options too, booking an Uber or a dedicated airport taxi for the quickest route. And for long-distance travel, knowing exactly where to catch the AC, the air-conditioned bus to galley at the Mukundra Highway bus terminal, that's high-value logistical knowledge.
We also rely heavily on using relative positions. This is the spatial language you use when maps fail or the area is complex.
Things like opposite the National Museum or inside the commercial bank branch.
Or looking for the destination, which is after the roundabout, just before the police station. These are geographical signposts.
So let's look at 4.3, seeking specific help. These are the niche, high-urgency questions that are often overlooked in generic language training. Finding a public toilet, for example.
And the answer requires multiple options. Downstairs in the shopping mall, or you can use the petrol station's restroom.
And when you're truly lost, the language to confirm your current location on a map is essential. We are here at the R.A. de Melmawatha in Marine Drive Junction. Which way to the bus stop? This is analytical language applied to navigation.
Even finding shortcuts to avoid main road traffic. Is there a side road we can take to avoid the main galley road congestion? That's a specific conversational need addressed by the source.
Finally, the dialogue practice for finding the post office brings all these elements together. It uses a sequence of clear, effective directional phrases.
Like go straight down this road until you reach the big clock tower, which provides a highly visible landmark. Then turn right, followed by describing the destination as the large colonial building just after the park.
And the local speaker, Aravinda, he uses opposite so effectively when describing the ATM location. There is one opposite the post office inside the commercial bank branch. This whole structure ensures the learner can both ask and give clear directions using reliable local markers and relative positioning language.
Moving beyond just simple left and right. So we've moved from function and necessity to immersion. Section 5, describing the Sri Lankan village market is not just about vocabulary, it's about transforming observation into a rich, memorable sensory experience. This is really the pinnacle of descriptive language mastery.
It is the difference between surviving in English and truly engaging with culture in English. In 5.1, we focus on atmosphere and sights. When you're asked what immediately caught your eye, the answer has to be rich in powerful adjectives.
And it starts with the sheer visual intensity, the vibrant piles of tropical fruit. They're stacked high in shades of red, yellow, and deep purple. The use of the word vibrant immediately sets the tone. It's not dull or muted, it's alive with color.
You capture the auditory environment too. It's described as lively and noisy, but the guide pinpoints specific sounds. The rhythmic banging, which is then identified as a vendor chopping coconuts very quickly.
That provides context to the noise. It's activity, not chaos.
Right. And the color intensity continues in the spice section. Huge open sacks of bright yellow turmeric and deep red chili powder. The contrasting color is a descriptive tool in itself.
And we acknowledge traditional textural items like the beautiful hand-woven baskets made from palm leaves. This isn't just a checklist, it's a visual riot of culture and commerce, and it requires a wide palette of adjectives to describe.
Now we hit section 5.2, the deep, rich exploration of unknown produce. This is the section that's just full of those specific aha knowledge nuggets that signal deep immersion.
Yeah.
If you can accurately describe these items, you're demonstrating true linguistic mastery.
We should definitely dedicate some time to these descriptions because they're perfect training examples in precise, observable language that teach comparison and analogy. First, Kohila, or Lajia. How is it described?
It looked like a thorny, slender root or tuber. Notice the use of 3 descriptors: thorny for texture, slender for shape, and root or tuber for the botanical category.
Next, breadfruit, or dill.
Huge, round, and bumpy, with pale green, slightly rough skin. Again, textural specifics: bumpy, rough. You are painting a mental picture with tactile and visual details.
Then the beautiful small red bananas, Rathkerel. They're not just red.
No, they're smaller and plumper than regular bananas, and the skin is a beautiful, deep burgundy color. The language here is focused on differentiating it from the common yellow banana using precise color and shape modifiers.
And the ubiquitous king coconuts, or thambili.
Described as bright orange and smooth, often sold in large bunches on the ground. Simple, direct, and focused on color and texture to convey immediate recognition.
But the prize for the most vivid, accessible analogy has to go to jackfruit, or kos. It's enormous, prickly, and rough, and it's compared to a massive dinosaur egg.
That dinosaur egg analogy.
Yeah.
It immediately makes the item unforgettable, even to someone who has never seen one.
Yeah.
Why is comparison such a powerful descriptive tool?
Because descriptive language is all about linking the unknown to the known. If you simply say a prickly fruit, the listener has a vague image. But when you compare it to a massive dinosaur egg, you instantly communicate the scale, the texture, and the slightly primordial, intimidating quality of the fruit.
It's a difference between competence and artistry in descriptive English.
Absolutely.
Moving to 5.3, we engage the other crucial senses: scents, tastes, and delicacies. What was the strongest smell?
A mixture of fresh fish and coriander, which is described as earthy and robust.
Then we explore local sweets and their cultural weight. Take kavoom. The description is so comprehensive. It's a sticky, deep-fried oil cake made with rice flour and treacle, very sweet and dense.
So you get the method, deep fried, the core ingredients, rice flour, treacle, the taste sweet, and the texture, sticky, dense. This detail ensures the listener really understands the food's composition.
The freshly made roti smelled deliciously warm, yeasty, and slightly smoky from being cooked over an open fire. This uses sensory adjectives related to warmth and process. It captures the moment of preparation.
And for a truly unique taste experience, the soursop juice, katu inoda, is described using contrast. It is tangy and creamy at the same time, with a distinct tropical flavor. That use of tangy and creamy together is a really sophisticated way to describe a complex taste profile.
And we can't overlook the aromatic details provided by the curry leaves. They're described as giving off a warm, slightly citrusy, and deeply aromatic scent that makes you feel hungry.
It ties the smell directly to an emotional response, hunger, and uses these layering descriptors: warm, citrusy, aromatic. This sensory language is the ultimate test of immersive descriptive English. It requires recalling precise vocabulary for color, shape, texture, sound, and flavor, all at the same time.
Finally, 5.4 covers interaction and general feelings. How do you handle the inevitable language barrier in a busy market?
Mostly by pointing and using hand gestures, but the vendors were very patient and helpful. This is practical coping mechanism language. It validates the difficulty but provides successful strategies.
And the overall impression is overwhelmingly positive. The people were very welcoming and warm, smiling a lot.
Right. And even though the visitor might have felt a little overwhelmed by crowds and noise at first, the prevailing feeling was one of true cultural immersion. It's okay to acknowledge the initial confusion as long as the overall experience is positive and you can articulate it in detail.
And the final key learning point from this sensory section, which is the perfect capstone for the whole guide, is to master the use of strong adjectives: vibrant, aromatic, bumpy, fierce, glossy, and to train yourself to describe using all 5 senses.
Sights, sounds, smells, tastes, textures.
That's how you transform hesitant attempts into articulated reality and truly capture an experience.
So what does this comprehensive deep dive prove? We've covered a massive range of knowledge, and it's all structured specifically for functional mastery. We moved from building a personal, culturally anchored identity
Right.
through the functional survival phrases needed for high-stakes formal transactions, directions, symptoms, banking procedures, and we culminated in the intricate descriptive language required to truly engage with a new environment, demonstrated by that village market sensory experience.
We started by noting that vocabulary is the foundation for confident communication, and the structured material provides exactly the vocabulary needed. It equips you with the precise terms for a 1-year fixed deposit, the linguistic nuance for describing a throbbing headache versus a dull ache.
And the perfect analogy for a jackfruit.
Exactly. It transforms you from a generalized learner into an articulate communicator, fulfilling your need to be quickly but thoroughly informed.
The brilliance of this source material is its application-based goal setting. It gave us that spectacularly specific, practical goal: wanting to learn to drive a 3-wheeler and visiting Arugam Bay for surfing as the ultimate aspirational targets. These are goals that require immediate applied English.
And that raises the final important question for you, the listener. If learning language is about immediate access, access to formal services, access to travel, access to culture, what highly specific, practical, or personal goal would you use English to achieve in a local setting? Think about that goal. Maybe it's getting certified documents at the divisional secretariat, or maybe it's describing the view from Sigiriya. And which section of this deep dive, formal transaction, direction, or vivid description do you need to master first to reach that goal? Identify that friction point, find the vocabulary, and start there. The path to fluency is now clearer than ever.
Until next time, keep diving deep.